after I saw what I saw and I've experienced what I've experienced, I think most of us have taken the delve into all of this material. And you're like, I know this is true. I know this is true. I know this is true. Who else is saying these true things? Who else is relaying information that I know to be true to try and make sense of your own life? They were aware of what I was talking about. I don't know the capacity in which they were briefed in. There's things that I knew that these people were aware of, but even they would not say. One of those being biologics.
You think there's a storehouse of that information that anybody would have put something away in case something bad happened to them? And do you know what happened to these people?
You know, the ones that I know still continue in the government. I think they continue in their classified operations programs.
They're not coming forward.
They would never come forward in a million years unless they were going to die. And it really sucks for me coming forward because I only came forward because I sincerely believe they were going to die. Sucks.
And you yourself have had really unfortunate coincidences, we'll put it that way. And that's one of the reasons why we started communicating, was because if anything did happen to him, he wanted to make sure some journalists like you and me knew about it. And so I call that like a perceived threat or a real threat. I don't know. And I think some people too, the way these things happen, it's hard to put your finger on the cause of it. I know that happened with David Gresh, with Matthew Brown. You can have police reports saying this happened. I had a break into my home, but proving who did it, even though it's very coincidental timing. And you have one of those experiences yourself, was right when you're leaving this agency that you're not naming, that I think we're all guessing, but right when you're leaving that employment,
I mean,
something bad happened.
I can fill you in there.
It's a good time for that one.
So for 3.5 years, I worked for BAE without the ability to take another job. And the nature of the work we did, we would get a new boss, whether contractor or govy, every 6 months. I mean, that was the way it was. People were in and out of there because that job is hell. 3.5 years into it, we get a new contractor boss, and he comes in and does the typical Dylan's lying. His clearance is fine. He doesn't have his master's degree. He's full of crap. And I'm like, I'm done with this, my man. So I went to my government employee at the time, who I thought I was friends with. And I told him, I was like, I want to know who your boss is, because I'm going to his office right now, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm telling him I want my stuff fixed. He tried to tell me, don't do it. It's going to look bad. I was like, I've been here for 3.5 years. I cannot do this anymore. This work is killing me. This is insane. This is the worst place on planet Earth. And I go to his boss, and I walk in there. I say, here's my name, here's my social, look me up in JPass and Scattered Castles, because I guarantee I'm not in there. And verbatim, he says to me, there's no way you wouldn't be allowed in the building. I was like, you want to bet? He looks me up, and he says, oh, wow, you haven't had a clearance since 2014. I give him other names of people who were in similar situations, and he gets on a phone call, and he makes a call, and he says, fix this now. I walk out of the building, and magically my clearance pops up in JPass and Scattered Castles that morning. I get a phone call from BAE System Security, and they're not happy with what I did. I take the first job I can, which was teaching counter UAS, so counter unmanned aerial surveillance vehicles at JIDO, which became DTRA. And long story short, I come into work a couple weeks later, and I say, here's my 2-week notice. I'm out of here. They're like, oh, well, what can we do to keep you? I was like, there's absolutely nothing you can do to keep me. They're like, all right. They're like, you got to out process. Well, before 2 weeks, I'll process in a few days. I go and I'll process early. And as soon as I sign the paperwork, I walk out of the office, and the company that hired me contacts me, and they say, your clearance has been erased again. So I lose my clearance in May. That's May of 2018. The company that hired me went to their prime, which was at that point CACI. And for about a month, they are working, at least they're telling me they're working on getting my clearance fixed. And in early mid-June, I am contacted by the company that hired me, and they said, we are unable to get your clearance back in the system. We have to move on to other candidates. Good luck out there. We don't think you're ever going to get your clearance fixed. That night I was invited out. And I was getting ready to sell my vehicles. I had pulled my 401k at this point because I knew I was done. I had filed for unemployment, which they denied me for. And on the way home, I totaled my car, and there was a police investigation, and the police had told me in confidence that my brake lines were cut. They wanted it to look like a suicide, which goes into what the VA was doing with me and the medical issues and the doctors that had resigned and all that.
So you leave somewhere you were at. Next thing you know, you're pushing your brake to the floor, total the car, but you're able to get home.
Yep.
And you get home, and then of course the police see the car totaled, and they either wonder, were you sober? Is everything okay? And you invite them over. You said, come do a breathalyzer.
Yep.
They said, well, this is going to take a while.
Yep.
We're going to contact you tomorrow. And then the lead investigative officer in that case physically comes to your home.
Yep.
And warns you that somebody tried to kill you. Your brake lines were cut.
He verbatim said, the only reason I'm not charging you with a crime is because your brake lines were cut.
I'm not charging you for a crime because your brake lines were cut.
Is there a police report?
There is a police report of the totaled car, and there's a police report of what I said to the officer, which is I went out with a friend who worked for the agency. I had 2-3 drinks playing pool over the night, had some wings on the way home, car totaled.
Does it say in any police report your brake lines were cut?
I have been searching for it, no. And this is what sucks is this is the most damning, and I know what was said to me, and this is the only thing out of all the craziness that I do have evidence to that you guys have seen, these weird polygraph tests and VA tests and all this, but the police report verbatim saying that my brake lines were cut, I am still trying to get proof of.
Exactly. That's a clear cut thing, right? It's like, we can talk about the administrative terrorism, the bizarre psychological, I'd say, experiments that he had to endure.
You're working for BAE, but not really. You're working, that's the structure of this company. You're working for an agency. It's doing the same stuff.
Yep, it's called
redacted.
I mean, you have covered positions, non-official covered positions, and even then I'm starting to float down a river of classification and classified information, but basically I was
Your paycheck is from BAE.
Yes.
Are there other people who aren't necessarily BAE government people that you are interacting with at any
100%, and there's other agencies outside of the IC that I'm interacting with. There are other contractors I'm interacting with because it's a way to
redacted.
Here's my question is your employer and the secret employer know what you know. They know what you did. You've done it well, even though you feel guilty about it. Why wouldn't they take care of you and not want you to spill beans or go off the deep end?
So,
why wouldn't they do that?
all right, now you're asking me my opinion, and this is my opinion. To be clear, I think at the time that all of this was happening and considering with what the VA was doing to me, what was on my official record, it is my opinion that it would have been very easy to discredit me publicly by saying this individual is delusional. Look at all his medical records. He's a disgruntled employee, a liar, all of that. And then the problem became, though, especially when I came to Arrow and spilled the beans, and then people found out I kept police reports and voicemails that are on my phone, you guys have heard, that people found out very quickly that it was going to be very easy to discredit me when I was still under the belief that if I said anything, they would call me a Looney Tune. And then they found out how much I knew, what I could prove, and what I had. And it quickly became a problem of, he is a danger.
Right.
We need to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
Bob Lazar kind of.
100%. And that's the thing that, that I notice a lot is that a lot of what the types of reprisals that you have experienced in your line of work mimic the same tactics all the way back to 1989 when George was reporting on Bob Lazar. It's like just ways to discredit you and put you and look, I've seen all the evidence that you've provided. We've looked through it. I've talked to people that know you really well over these years. You're a solid individual or wouldn't be sitting here. So the fact that they're setting up the option to be able to discredit you is exactly why they probably chose Bob compared to him. I mean, he's working official capacity with clearances and all that stuff, but it's the same tactics.
Yeah, I mean, it's called a standard operating procedure. I actually laugh. I mean, honestly, I was laughing about George's mug right here when confronted. One thing about the United States government is they don't really change their SOPs or TTPs. They think if it works, it's going to work forever. And this goes back to issues we were talking about, which is the internet changed the game. AI is going to change it more, and too many people have come out. So these SOPs and TTPs to keep whistleblowers silent